It's time for the Financial Crisis Talk Center with Ken Gross and David Einstandig from Thav Gross.
Credit card debt is number one. I view it as financial cancer.
40% of your gross income is going to just pay the debt service. You got no chance of getting out.
I would give up my credit score to get rid of debt.
Here's your host, Ken Gross.
Good morning. Welcome to the Financial Crisis Talk Center. It is a lovely day, as all days are in Michigan, and I've got with me in the studio this morning my sidekick, David Einstandig. Good morning, Brian. Good morning, David.
It's like Rain Man. Nothing changes.
Well, consistency is a good thing. It's a good thing in baseball. It's a good thing in lots of things. Brian Small, good morning.
Good morning, Ken. It's wonderful to be here this morning. Everybody's looking awake and chipper this morning. I hope everybody's planning on a wonderful weekend.
I have to say something, David. You're wearing a shocking pink shirt.
And people in glass houses shouldn't walk around naked.
I don't understand that statement. But
well, that's why you're in that seat. But wait, look at this picture. Look at this picture. Speaking of clothing, look at this picture, and what do you see?
Yeah, like
what color coordinated?
This would be like a lesson for the first grader that says, "Pick out the what doesn't fit." And if the first grader says Brian's purple shirt, then that first grader is going to stay in first grade for a while.
Maybe.
Now, we'll explain why for the people that are listening, not watching on TV. We've got a special guest in the studio today, Ven Johnson from Ven Johnson Law, the fighter, personal injury attorney, good friend, sponsor of our show, one of our founding sponsors of our show. So I invited him to join us to talk about personal injury, lawsuits, and issues with that. And we're going to tie it in with bankruptcy. Good morning, Ven.
Morning, everybody. How you doing?
Good, thanks. You didn't get the memo, obviously, on the attire.
No, I thought it was dress-up day, apparently, so I missed the pink shirt. Sorry, guys.
Well, if you've got a big business meeting ahead of you after the show, you're all set. But you didn't bring the red gloves.
No, they stay at the office. That's where they belong. That in the courtroom.
If you go to your website, Ven Johnson Law, those or the billboards we see on the road, that red boxing glove stands out. I love that boxing glove.
Thank you. We've been very fortunate. John Barlow Communications, I know, is a friend of ours, and he's done a magnificent job. Told me it would be a kind of a new, different thing, and tell people about how it's important for me and to represent our clients and fight for them. And so he's done an excellent job, and I appreciate him very much.
Yeah, hey, our word of the day today is lawyers. So I'm dedicating that to Ven and also to Brian and to David and myself. Seems though we're from Thav Gross. But I want to talk about a couple things. I kind of want to focus on in this segment on number one, what do people do and individuals do when they think they have a claim or they've been injured? You have to go through a process of how do you select an attorney. And that's a difficult thing. There's TV commercials. There's one where if you're watching baseball, if you're watching hockey, if you're watching the news, you're going to see the same TV commercial for one particular lawyer. And then there's also other commercials for lawyers as well, and there's other media. But the question is, how do you really pick the right attorney? And then after that, I want to get into an issue that ties into what we do with financial crisis issues. So often bankruptcy or financial issues come into play in a lawsuit, whether it's the plaintiff, the person who's injured, who has financial problems and pressures while they're waiting for their case to go forward, as well as the problem of what do you do when you're in the middle of a lawsuit and you're suing a defendant and they're threatening to file bankruptcy or they actually do file bankruptcy. What if you're suing General Motors in the middle of their bankruptcy? What happens to your case? I mean, that's the extreme example. So we're going to talk about that. But Ven, let's get a little bit of background on you. I understand you went to Kalamazoo College, graduated in 1983.
400 years ago, feels like. Yes, sir, I did. Very fortunate to go there.
84 is when the Tigers won?
It was.
Okay.
First year law school. Yep.
Well, I was around in 68 when the Tigers won.
And you also went to school in one building for most of your career.
No, I didn't go to the little schoolhouse. And you went to
nobody took the short bus. I tell you that much.
Yeah, UD.
Okay.
Well, I only had a half block.
Yeah,
walk
but
to
it
my
was
elementary
uphill
school,
in the
though.
snow and then gravel. I know.
Nice. So in '95, I guess you joined the Feiger law firm.
I did. I was a defense lawyer. I did the other side at a firm called Cole Seacrest back in the day for the first 9 years, and then I switched and went with Jeffrey back in '95.
Oh, so you were doing you did just litigation defense, personal injury cases, all this. So
Product
you really learned the other
liability.
side. Learned the other side of the coin before you flipped.
Absolutely true. I was very fortunate. It's a great firm, great learning experience, and everyone always there said you should be doing plaintiff work. You're way too emotional, way too passionate to be a defense lawyer, and they were right. So I listened, and obviously I had a marvelous opportunity at the Feiger firm for 16 years.
You've been punishing them ever since on the defense
I'm
bar.
doing my best, one case at a time, as we say.
So here's how I know you, and this is I came in to learn of you is you're the guy that likes to try the cases.
That's very true.
You're in court. There's so many lawyers handle so many cases, but most cases settle. But you're the guy a lot of times people go to 2 months before trial. The attorney calls you up and says, "Hey, I've got this case. I really want to bring in a heavy hitter."
Thank you.
How'd you get to that point?
At the Feiger firm, obviously, I was there for 16 years. I was a partner for the last 11, and we had many, many lawyers, obviously, and I supervised 6 right underneath me. And so what we would do on the bigger cases is if they go to trial, then they had to include me, the lawyer that worked in the case, and me. So I learned how to get ready for trial in a pretty short period of time and was thrown into a lot of different scenarios all across the United States. Very fortunate. And then when I started my own firm, Johnson Law, 2 years ago, I just kind of carried on that same theme and marketed very candidly to lawyers, a group of people who I obviously know and love, and we all surround ourselves, seems like, guys with lawyers all in the room, right? And
no one else will play with us.
No one else will talk to us. Seriously, though, but it's one of the things where in our business, it's an art form, really, that's lacking. A lot of people don't know that, and I certainly don't like to market that as other people do. But the fact of the matter is very few of us in this day and age actually still try lawsuits. And I think that what people need to do if they want to hire a lawyer, they need to understand that statistic. How many times has your attorney gone to trial? How many wins if you keep that? I used to not even keep track, sadly. So I had to go back and literally retrace my steps. And it's part of the website scheme, if you will. You have to go back and do that and be accurate, obviously. So that's what I did. And I'm very fortunate, and I do have lawyers that come to me. I've got 2-3 cases this month that I'll be working on that lawyers came to me in the last few months and said, my client is seriously injured, and we're going to trial because they're not paying. Ven, let's do this.
It's a good way. It's great to get to that point to be able to be in that position, but you got to get there and earn it. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to kind of focus in on the individual. He's injured. What does he do next? What does he do to protect his case and go from there? We'll be back after the break.
No one ever thinks that a serious injury can happen to them, but it can, and it does. And it can happen to you. And when it does, you need a fighter in that courtroom for you. Call me, Ven Johnson. Automobile accident, police misconduct, medical malpractice, product liability. You know what you're up against, how hard it is to get answers. When all you want is justice, call me, Ven Johnson. Whatever your legal crisis, I will fight for you. Call me today.
I couldn't get out of the car. I couldn't run or exercise. I couldn't work.
Dr. Lewis Radin believes that pain shouldn't have to wait. His Spine Specialist of Michigan is a comprehensive center dedicated to helping you manage pain now. Expect the latest techniques and personalized care. Why suffer another minute?
He's the best. I tell people that he's the one that saved my life.
Make your appointment with Dr. Radin. Call 248-792-9496.
Don't let legal problems destroy your family or your life. Get the justice you deserve. I'm Sabrina Cronin of the Cronin Law Firm, and I'm here to make things right. My firm handles family law, business law, and even criminal law. We can handle all of your legal needs. So whatever you're facing, I'm here to get you justice. You can't afford not to call. Call 855-CRONIN-LAW today.
Do you have tax problems, unfiled returns? Facing levies on wages in your property? You need an expert, not a cartoon character or salesman. Thav Gross is your solution.
You need to look at the big picture. That's what we do. We develop a plan that's right for you.
I had major tax problems. I didn't know what to do.
We did.
We sat down together and solved your tax problem.
No more letters, no more phone calls. They saved me.
Call Thav Gross, 888-235-HELP.
Going from hourly to salary seemed like a good career move, but now you're working 60 hours a week instead of 40, and you aren't getting paid any of that extra time. You're stuck, right? Wrong. You can be on salary and still be entitled to overtime. If you've been wrongly denied such pay, you may be entitled to that and more. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
All right, welcome back. All right, so we're with Ven Johnson, Ven Johnson Law, fighter, red boxing glove, superb litigation attorney, personal injury. I got David in a pink shirt with me, Brian in a purple shirt with me as well. Superb attorneys.
Not necessarily the best dressers? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, well, I can't really, something about stones and glass houses that David was referring to before, some expression I don't understand, but I'm not going to get into it.
I'll draw you a picture, Sally, later.
But let me get a couple announcements. We've got seminars coming up. You want to check our websites, thavgross.com, financialcrisistalkcenter.com, or check the commercials that give you the exact date and time for the upcoming seminar. The topic of the seminar is the long-term plan. Debt-free, lean, and mean. And the bottom line is, we're kind of coming out of the financial crisis. I mean, Michigan has done well. The automotive is doing well. If you particularly have a problem, if you're underwater in your house, if you're carrying too much debt, you still have a problem you have to address with. From the standpoint of the economy as a whole, there's some level of consumer optimism. We've seen a bump in real estate values and everything else. But you need to focus on yourself. And what I think the first step is to accumulating savings and wealth, which is what life is about if you want to have something to retire with, is the first step to doing that is getting rid of the debt. Because if you burden yourself with credit card debt and too much debt, you're going to end up taking your disposable income. You're going to pay juice. You're going to pay interest to Bank of America, Chase, PNC, Comerica Bank, Fifth Third, Primerica, and all the other credit card companies that are out there, Citi, and that money's going to go out the door, vanished, and it's not going to have anything for you. If you can figure out how to get rid of that debt quickly so that your excess income is going in the bank rather than going to the bank, you can put yourself in a position where you start saving $1,000, $1,500 a month, and then when you get to 65, you'll have Social Security to the extent it's still out there. I mean, it'll be there in some portion, but you'll also have a nest egg. You'll have an IRA that's worth $500,000, or you'll have a 401k that's worth $1 million, and you'll have something to retire with. You got to think long term. You sit there and worry about, like we all do, it's Monday, oh God, just get me to Friday so I can kick back and relax a little bit, have a beer, maybe cut the lawn. If you think that way when it comes to your finances, you're going to get to be 65, you're going to be wanting to get to Friday, but you're not going to have the money to even buy the beer.
When's the last time you cut the lawn?
I was going to say, when was the last time you had a beer?
Well, everybody has different things, but I'll have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
In 1842 was the last time you cut the lawn.
Why don't you just take the fifth on the lawn?
I cut the lawn. I stopped cutting the lawn in 1995.
Okay.
The lawn and I did not get along. It was the lawnmower and I that didn't get along. I want to thank our sponsors, Cronin Law Firm, Ven Johnson Law, Gold Star Law, Samasco Law, Double Action Shooting Range and Gun Shop, Spine Specialists of Michigan. I appreciate the support. Now let's go back to Ven. All right, here's the scene. I'm in an accident. Car accident. I think I've got an injury. The police came. Tickets were issued. I don't feel good. I went to the hospital. I've been discharged. I'm now watching TV. People are saying, what do I do? Who do I call? How do I make that decision?
It's a tough decision. Obviously, there's a lot of very qualified people out there. I might be a tad bit biased. I hope they call 855-VEN-FIGHTS. But seriously, you're certainly going to watch advertisements. You're going to do your homework. I would hope that most people in this day and age jump online and look at people's websites before they make the call. And again, my strong suggestion is look at the folks who have actually do and still try cases and are successful doing so, because those folks are the ones that are going to get you the most money in a settlement. Like you said, Ken, most cases do settle, but we always have to be prepared for trial, and that's how we do it.
So, Ven, I assume we'd have a couple different degrees. The example, the hypothetical that Ken gave, somebody was able-bodied, they were not retained in the hospital,
right,
and they were able to most likely do their own due diligence. But
right,
we have various degrees of the injuries. If we have, I imagine that you see in your practice ranging from that, which may be, it may be severe injuries, but most likely it's not as severe as someone who is laid up in the hospital, broken vertebrae, broken back, whatever it may be, paralyzed, or even in a coma, not able to speak.
Right.
Now, and there, it's really probably the family members that start saying, the husband, the loved ones. Who start, now, what do you see in your practice on the more severe injuries, and how does the timing work? Does usually you get calls right away? Do the attorneys, in what you've seen, go to try to vet out the injuries, either whatever type of marketing, or do you see that it's really the individuals that do their homework and start looking around and call you? What happens?
David, we see both, actually, and you're 100% right. If someone's in the hospital and incapable of doing it for themselves, and we often get a loved one. In fact, many times someone who is seriously injured and then begins to recover on some level, you still get the loved ones actively involved, because they want their loved one to get whatever is due and owed to them under the law. So we do get phone calls from various different folks and in various relationships to people, and then it becomes our job, like you said, to vet it out and to investigate. That's what it's all about. And another thing that I think people forget is simply, if you're have an injury, it's not just what happens at the hospital. The majority of clients, guys, that I've had in the last 27 years of my practice who have had back and neck surgeries, they didn't have that surgery in the hospital. It's something that has developed over the course of the next year to 2 years after that initial injury. Let's think of a rear-end accident. We all know what happens to our head and our neck and our bodies. We go up and over and through the seat belts, and it does incredibly bad things to us. So, but that's exactly what a good lawyer will assist a client in doing, is getting all the medical records. Get the police report. Number one, folks, get the police report and then call. And then we can start the process. And
what about when you have and I've seen this many times when I've worked with other personal injury attorneys on matters, is the client out there, they're sitting there, they're in a financial crisis.
Absolutely.
They're paycheck to paycheck, and they don't know if they should treat and get medical treatment, and how do they balance medical treatment and be able to help their case. And we want you to talk about that when we get back.
We're going to take a break. We'll come back right to that. The biggest word that I liked between the two of you right there was homework. That going to the website, researching who your lawyer is in whatever area it is. That's number one. We'll be back after the break.
You like your job. What you don't like is the way your boss has been treating you. He's making comments about how you look instead of your work, and he's been touching you inappropriately. If you complain, is he allowed to fire you? Absolutely not. Unwelcome sexual comments, advances, and contact are illegal in the workplace. Make him pay. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Every family has the family meeting, and we all know what that means. Dad's got dementia. What are we going to do? What's the care plan that the family has in place? Usually they don't, or they struggle with a care plan. When you go home tonight and you talk to your tax person and you talk to your financial person, say, what's the plan that you have in place? And as soon as they don't give you an answer, give me a call, because I can do it for you.
Carrying too much debt? Dump your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Double Action, shooting center and gun shop. For the largest selection of guns, accessories, and ammunition, Double Action is your only pro gun shop. And now you can train with the best in our basic CCW course with the most comprehensive curriculum, the best resources, and most accomplished staff. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. Double Action is the only place to get your CCW or renewal. Double Action. We're on DeQuinder in Madison Heights.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
Welcome back. We're with Ven Johnson, Ven Johnson Law, personal injury. We're focusing on that issue, and we're also tying it in with some bankruptcy financial crisis issues. So here's the situation. Pretend I'm the client, Ven. I'm under financial pressure. I'm broke. I am destitute, but I was in an auto accident. I was injured significantly, and I know I've got some money coming on this case. And you know what? I need the money now because I've got to feed my family. So I'm calling you, Ven, settle my case. Just settle it. I don't care. Get me the money. What do you do in that situation?
It's a terrible situation to be in, Ken, and you're 100% right. I probably get this issue 95% of my cases. Insurance companies, ladies and gentlemen, corporations and the government in these types of claims know you need the money, and they will not pay, and they will stretch it out because they know you are going to cave at whatever they throw your way. And unfortunately for my clients, as I tell them, you got the wrong lawyer to do that. I won't let them.
You don't cave.
I can't.
Hold on. It's a certain balance, I would imagine, Ven. You have to balance. You have to balance the client's directive, which us as attorneys need to honor.
True.
So really, I think what you're saying is I can't do it. Is that you need to be able to educate your client on liability, educate your client on the medicine, and educate your client and say, hang in there. Hang in there.
David, it's a business. It's a bit to these entities. Insurance companies, corporations, government. It's a business decision. They're going to pay as little money as they can until you force them to pay you.
And at some point in time, most will settle, but you've got to get them to that point. You got to get through you got to get past the summary dispositive motions and all that. So if you can get there, then you're in the money.
Absolutely,
and then you can decide you may want to roll the dice if they're not being reasonable.
And you and I, we all know in this room, gentlemen, and the public should know, the best way for you to get as much money as you can, deservedly, obviously, being ready for trial and waiting to the end. That's when they pay the big money. They don't pay the big money at the beginning. Even on major injuries. Gentlemen, I've had death cases, I've had amputations, and they do not pay until you are right there on the eve of trial.
It's no different than when you're resolving credit card debt. It's about timing. You got to wait right before they're ready to charge it off. In most circumstances, that's when you could get the best deal the other end of the spectrum.
Timing, and it's homework. Just like when we said at the beginning, at the top of the hour, we said it's homework in selecting the attorney, then the attorney's got homework to do. If you prepare the case well and you're ready to go to trial and you've done all the depositions and you've shown the other side, we're ready to go and we're going to rip you if we go to trial. That's what makes the decision for the adjuster or the insurance company to open up the wallet and say, I don't want to take the risk of getting hit with a multi-million-dollar judgment. And then they put money on the table.
Ken, you're so right. And that's why the experience level of your attorney makes such a big difference in this area of law. And I'm sure it's in every area of law. But the fact of the matter is that insurance company, that government agency, the hospital, whatever type of case you're dealing with, they've got to know that this lawyer has done it before. They're going to do it again, and they know what to do, and they face a huge risk in trying a case.
Ven, how important is teamwork, though, between you and your client? Meaning this. If you're not on the same team and you don't have open and frank communication about the pros and cons of your case, I've seen in cases that we've handled, clients do things that completely decimate their ability to recover. And I want to know if you see it. I want to know what happens if a client files a bankruptcy but never tells you.
Oh, David, it happens. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is when just like when you go to different doctors, guys, people will say, okay, well, this is my doctor for my back ache. And then I have a doctor over here that treats my headache. And it's like people think, okay, well, this is my bankruptcy lawyer, so I don't need to tell my bankruptcy lawyer about that lawsuit, and probably wouldn't even think about it. But 100% right, you guys, I know in your practice see this too. I've had a variety of situations where my clients were, because of the accident and their injuries, they're not able to work. They're not getting the funds that they need. They go to a bankruptcy attorney. They file the bankruptcy. They get their debt discharged, and they didn't put in this lawsuit.
Brian,
Brian,
what happens there, Brian? Do you do that, Brian?
It's a big problem, and no, we are. I don't.
You better not.
We do an incredible amount of investigation into the client's assets. And I will ask a client about 17 different ways whether they have a claim for a personal injury in any way, shape, or form. They don't want to list it. I don't have to list that, do I, Brian? Well,
what's the consequences if they don't?
You lose it.
So what you've done is
so
you've now
when that
you've
happens,
converted.
Could that cost you the case as well?
We were talking off the air, you guys. What happened like 5 years ago? There's no statute, there's no law that says this, but courts are now interpreting it pretty much across the United States. But here in Michigan, if you do not list a personal injury claim on your bankruptcy, even if it arose obviously after you're filing the bankruptcy, it doesn't matter. If it's not on there, your lawsuit is over. It is presumed fraud.
And the funny
which is
thing
highly unfair, I might add, guys,
is that when you have a personal injury lawsuit of such a great extent where you're going to recover hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and you owe $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 worth of debt, even if you go into a bankruptcy, at the end of the day, you're still going to get the majority of your settlement back to you, or the majority of the lawsuit.
You just have to pay the creditors.
Right.
Your creditors will get paid, but the pressure comes off of you.
So in that case, Brian, file the case if you're in hardship and just let the creditors let the chips fall they may, or hold off on the case as long as you possibly can.
You know what?
It
depends. It's a balancing act. A lot of times, if we can figure out how to put somebody into a Chapter 13 bankruptcy while they still maintain control of their assets and control of the case and control of their personal injury case, that's the best possible result, giving them the relief that they need to move forward with their life while letting Ven figure out how to get to the result.
That would be your expertise, Brian, being able to evaluate if you could fit into that Chapter 13. Because if you're wrong and the bankruptcy attorney doesn't know what they're doing, it could get converted to a 7, and then you're back to nightmare. And what I've heard now is, and Ken, you're right. And Brian, you failed to list that. You've blown the hundreds or millions, like Brian said, and what you've done is you've turned it into a malpractice case for Ven because that bankruptcy attorney committed malpractice.
I'll go even one better is if you fail to list your asset in your bankruptcy,
you can have your discharge.
You can be having lunch with Kwame. You're going to have lunch with Kwame.
No, you're not going to go to federal prison, but you can have your discharge revoked.
We got to wrap it up.
Pass the pepper, Kwame.
So let's summarize. Homework is number one. You've got to do your homework in selecting the attorney. You got to do, and then the attorney's got to do his homework in preparing the case. If you've got financial issues, you've got to investigate them. You absolutely can't hide something when you're filing a bankruptcy petition. You can completely screw up your case. I want to thank Ven Johnson for joining us on the show. I want to thank our sponsors, Cronin Law, Ven Johnson Law, Gold Star Law, Samasco Law, Double Action Shooting Range, Spine Specialist of Michigan.
Wow.
Don't forget the seminars. Go to our websites. Check both sites, thavgross.com, financialcrisistalkcenter.com. Thanks for joining us on this segment of the Financial Crisis Talk Center.